Welcome to the Winning Wellness Podcast, where we explore health, wellness, performance, and try to improve not only your quantity of life, but your quality of life. I'm your host, Mitch Schwartzman.
I had a great time this week visiting with Coach Johan De Vos out at his facility in O'Fallon, Missouri. Atlas Training Academy is where he does his own strongman training, preparing for competitions. He's coaching young athletes. He's coaching general population. He's got a great staff going, helping the community out with their health and fitness.
Background, and I mean, you know me pretty well, but I guess for everybody else, from South Africa originally, 33 now, going on 34. Been a lifelong athlete my whole life. When I was younger, I swam, I played cricket, I played rugby. As I got older, I got more into the strength sports. I've competed in bodybuilding, I've competed in powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, strongman a little bit more recently, and lifelong athlete. I've been coaching since I was 18, so that was 15 years ago. Started way back then, totally underqualified, but grew a passion for it anyway. Had the gym now for about 5 years, like I've said, and learned a hell of a lot since then. And yeah, I mean, kind of what I've learned in that time and being in all those different realms, I guess I would kind of call myself a bit of a jack of all trades of strength, if you want to call it that. I've definitely come to appreciate strength and how that quality, in my opinion, is maybe the mother quality of all other qualities. So that's something that I definitely push, and it's a big part of my philosophy of training people. But yeah, that's kind of my background, and
Let's
what I do
talk.
here for a little bit.
What was that early start? You're 18. What was your coaching opportunity?
Yeah, so I was working at the front desk, doing some cleaning, front desk work for a gym. It was called SA Fitness back home in South Africa. And there was this lady that started there that had never trained with anyone before, that wanted to train and work out with me. I didn't charge her at the time, but started training her back and forth. And then from there, got a little certification, started working there on the side with my other business, and yeah, decided to eventually go to college for it in Lindenwood. But yeah, back then it was I didn't know what I was doing. It was probably more of a bodybuilding style training for everybody that I took under my wing, because that's how I trained.
Yeah.
But yeah, things have definitely changed a lot now. I mean, like I said, I definitely have a big focus on strength, but we'll pull from everything, right? Like during our warm ups, we'll pull from yoga and Pilates. We'll pull from the bodybuilding world a little bit. We'll pull from the powerlifting world a little bit. Kind of being able to use all of these different skills that I've learned from these different areas, I feel like it's been super, super helpful.
Yeah, I always love when other people talk about coaching early on. I started personal training when I was 18, and so I always get excited to hear that because it's like, yeah, I know it's crazy how little
crazy.
how little you know, and then like grown-ups are entrusting you with
Right.
1 to 3 hours of their life each week, and hopefully nobody gets maimed, but it's
that's a big hope too.
it's just the best way to learn. Hopefully at no one else's expense, but you just get out there and just get started. So I always just fond memories of being just a young gun and just going out there and trying your hand, and very fond memories of that.
I keep a lot of training logs and training diaries and things with clients. And I found I was cleaning out my garage not too long ago, and this was probably from at least 8 years ago. I found a little diary of some people that I used to train, and I was paging through it. And I sat there thinking to myself as I paged through page, I was like, man, I would never do any of this stuff right now. Like, what dumbass wrote this? Oh, whoa, that's terrible. What were you thinking? And it's just crazy to see your progression, I guess, throughout your training career. And things you believed so strongly in back then, you would never think to do them now. Like that with everything in life, right?
Yeah, I have definitely had some of those moments, and then on the other side of the coin, sometimes you'll find something from like 10 or 12 years ago, and you're like, and it's the opposite. It's the opposite. You think, hey, good job, young me. Like, this is not totally horrible, and like maybe I'll even bring back some of this stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
So with this long career you've had, both coaching and being like a varied athlete, I guess, do you have some training mistakes, or what are some of the things that you maybe saw in that journal that you rolled your eyes at, that you've grown away from?
Right. So you kind of brought it up already, but the first thing, and I think the major thing for myself, and calling myself a bit of a jack of all trades, I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake and a good thing at the same time. I felt, and I still feel, that if I stuck with any one of these sports that I really was passionate about and did well at, if I just stuck with that sport, till now, I think that I would have been at a much higher, much more elite level than what I am at now. I have learned a lot from all these different areas, and I have taken things, and that's made me better at other areas. But if I spend just more time trusting myself, trusting the process, trusting that I will actually get there, instead of, oh, let's try this for a while, let's see how good we can get at this, and let's try that, I definitely think I would have been, a lot further along. But I don't really count that as a mistake. I do say I've learned a lot. So as far as like training mistakes, maybe rushing the process just in general, when you're feeling good, maybe not putting the extra weight on the bar that you would have so that you can perform even better the week after that, kind of trusting the process in that sense. And then again, for myself, maybe just thinking that I'm Superman too early on in my career. I was always chasing the weight. I was always trying to perform better. I was always trying to be the strongest guy around. And again, if I didn't do that and I maybe took a couple steps back and focused more on how I was moving and focused more on just learning how my body worked, again, I think I'd be a whole lot further along. I train a lot of young kids now, and I see that in them. They want to push harder. They want to be better. And it's almost my job as a coach nowadays to pull back on those reins, be like, hey, let's not add that 5 or 10 pounds. Let's do that again, but make it look better. To them, they think that I'm holding them back. I'm not letting them work. But in reality, and hopefully we know this, we're setting them up for success further on. We're not trying to bleed that tank dry. So I think that would be the biggest thing that I've learned in my coaching career is maybe just holding back on those reins. Don't think you're Superman. Trust the process a little bit more, especially with the younger kids that I train.
Yeah, that whoa versus go.
Right.
Like you learn really fast how to be a go coach, and you're constantly like you clap your hands and you say, "Come on, let's do this." But it's an interesting time when you start learning how to say whoa and like save some.
For sure. And that's with the athletes and stuff that we deal with. But there's also the other side of the coin there too. Like some people, and not a great thing to maybe talk about, but they don't really know how to push hard either, right? So some people you have to be on the other side of the page, and you really have to just push them to that point of what they believe is failure, so they know what it feels like, so they can push harder next time. But fine line. That's definitely something that took me a while to learn.
Yeah. You say you learn like that you're not Superman, but I'm not so sure. I'm not convinced. I remember seeing you in our weight room do a seated overhead press with 315, and that was a pretty good lift. I bring that up every once in a while. I say like at that rack, there's this guy Johan who set it up, and it was one of the more impressive lifts that we've seen over there. It was a good one. Yeah, it was a good one for sure.
But I was actually looking back on some of those Lindenwood lifts, and I think if I stand corrected, I think I was around 275 pounds at that stage. And I was pretty unathletic looking, so I may have moved some big weights, but I couldn't really move my body nearly as well. I wasn't coordinated, like looking back on it. And now I'm hovering around 200 pounds, like 70, 80 pounds lighter. I'm moving more weight than I ever did. I feel better than I ever did. I'm able to go. I did a 10-mile Tough Mudder a few months ago, whenever that was, a month and a half ago.
Yeah, nice.
But, I could never have done that in college.
Yeah.
So very cool. But again, if I just had trusted, all of this other stuff, those weights would have come just like they did now. I would have felt better. I would, maybe been more athletic along the way too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's his name's Niels Bohr. He's a Nobel Prize winner, and he's got a quote that goes something like, "An expert in a field is someone who's made every mistake there is to make."
Right.
And so sometimes you have to pack on a bunch of bad weight and chase numbers and make mistakes and do all that stuff. Yeah, you can't just read about it in a book.
Right. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. And then you and I, kind of before we really got cooking, you said I was just asking about business, and you said there's been a learning curve. What have you learned recently that maybe when we can go back and you can talk about the training or you can talk about the business, but what have you learned lately that young Johan could have benefited from?
That marketing and being able to market yourself is so much more important in this world nowadays than I believe your skill set. That sounds bad, and I almost that hurts my heart to say that. But what I've seen nowadays is amazing coaches that I would trust anybody to, that do not make a career out of this, that end up not using their degrees, and they they work somewhere else because they can't break into the field. If they learned how to market themselves just slightly better, these people would be the most successful people you and I know, but they aren't able to show that. And that's something that I've learned from the gym now. I'm obviously having to take over the whole marketing aspect by myself. No one knows who we are, right? And that's been really tough because in the beginning I thought, hey, I'm a good coach. I've helped some good people. I don't hurt people. I've done some good work. That's going to be enough. And it was not enough. Our first 2 years was okay, but year 3, year 4 got significantly better. Not because I got any better. I didn't do any courses and do any research. I just started marketing better. Started maybe showing off more of the work that we were doing, and not trying to be boastful or anything like that. Just trying to show, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're about, and freely kind of showing that. I think a lot of the better coaches that I know, they're very humble, right? They are very, very humble. So they don't want to put themselves out. They don't want to say, X is right, because they know that, hey, that this is a huge, complex thing that we're talking about. You can't just say this is right and that's wrong, because it's not real. And I think that maybe hurts some coaches. They're trying to be so correct, that they kind of get them their own way, if that makes sense. So the marketing, the showing yourself off, that whole side of things has been huge for us. Absolutely huge.
Yeah. I think about, I'm not the most active social media person. I'm putting some of these things out, and I've started doing a little bit more. But yeah, coaching is like, I think the approach, or the personality that is drawn to weight room coaching, the vast majority of those people, they want to be behind other people. We thrive off of their successes, and so to kind of like push them out of the way and go online and say, this is me, blah blah blah, start talking, doing things, it is like a almost unnatural.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's like, no, like I'm like, a lot of us are totally fine. Like, I had my time. I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then the world tells you, like, well, if you want people to know who you are, you have to show them who you are. So
You have to tell them.
yeah.
Exactly.
Nice. So you've done some of the marketing. I know I've seen quite a few of your lifts. Especially, it seems like the deadlifts make a pretty regular appearance online. What is it? The axle fat.
Yeah. So in the world of strongman, everything's in some way, shape, or form a deadlift. We have deadlifts from the floor. We have deadlifts from 18 inches, 15 inches, 13 inches, on axle bars, on deadlift bars, on power bars. So the deadlift obviously makes up a big chunk of the training. Right now, we have a deadlift on the neck. I have a meet in 2 weeks. We have deadlift from the floor. It'll be set at 635, I believe, and then that's for as many reps as possible. And then they'll be on the power bar. So that's usually not like normal. Usually it's from wagon wheels or a little bit of elevated height. So this will be cool. But yeah, definitely takes a big chunk of the training.
Yeah, they're just doing a standard barbell, standard weights. Yeah.
And that almost never happens in the sport of strongman. Usually it's some showboaty type thing.
Okay.
So that'll be cool for us.
And a power bar is like a traditional barbell, or what's the difference what's different about a power bar?
So definitely a barbell snob here. So I'm going to jump in deep in there. But the power bar is usually 28 millimeter diameter for the male bars. They're about 20 kg or 45, 44 pounds. They're a little bit stiffer. They're a little bit more rigid than your regular barbell. So on a movement like the deadlift, when you're moving, big weights, you're 400, 500, 600 pounds, that barbell doesn't flex nearly as much. So you have to pick it up lower to the ground. Whereas on like a deadlift bar, it flexes a whole lot more. If you have a good 600 pounds in the bar, you can get that bar 3, 4, 5 inches off the ground before the weights even lift the ground. So it kind of changes the movement, makes it a little easier, makes it a little harder. So that'll be the difference in the power bar and the deadlift bars.
Yeah.
And then we have so many different ones. We have the axle bar that doesn't bend at all. It's a whole lot thicker, 2 inches in diameter.
Nice. What's this? What competition is this? What are you heading into?
This will be my second little shot at the pro leagues, I guess is what you call it. It's an OSG qualifier. It'll be in Colombia on July 6th. Maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I had my first shot at a pro level event. So I guess talking about the strongman a little bit, past 3 years, I've been trying to do every local event that's been around us. There haven't been that many, but I've been to pretty much most of them. Went to nationals last year after that, did really, really well there. Local shows, placed first pretty much every single time. Nationals last year, biggest strongman event in North American history. There was over 500 people there was 60, I think 3 or 4 in my class, and I placed second at my first ever national shot. So hey, yeah, for me. Then I decided to take the next step up. There was a pro level show. I'm gonna lie to you if I tell you where it was, but it was a little while south. Earlier this year, 4 or 5 months ago. Didn't do as well, placed 4th. Not bad, but not as well. And that kind of lit a fire. So this will be my second shot at the pro level leagues. That'll be this July 6th meet. A lot more competitive, a lot heavier weights, but way more fun too. So yeah, it's been a good time so far.
Yeah, nice. What do you know? Do they surprise you, or do you know about the deadlift for reps? Do you know what other events you're facing?
So depending on the event, they change things quite a lot. Usually the bigger events like nationals or these pro level events, they give you the weights and the events months in advance, so you know what to prepare for. This one's been a little different. They actually put out the events one by one every month. So I think about 5 months ago, we got the first event. It was the overhead press medley. Then we got the second event after that. So we didn't really know what we were training for completely, until they released it. So that was a little bit more fun. But for the most part, strongman is some kind of deadlift, some kind of overhead press, and some kind of carry. So in our training, we kind of keep up with those fundamental kind of patterns, so we don't necessarily lose them. It's easy to train for. So easy transitions usually from one event to the next, or one meet to the next meet. So it wasn't too much of a change up.
So how much of your philosophy, your personal approach of the strongman, how much of that training maybe shows up in your coaching? Your facility is Atlas Training Academy.
Yes, sir.
And so if I'm Joe Schmo off the street and I go in there, am I gonna do like a graded version of some of these things?
So ideally that would be amazing, but unfortunately not. Some people that walk in, I'll take a step back. Some of the strongman implements that we have, they're very, very awkward. They're very big. They're very cumbersome, right? If you don't have a pretty decent level of strength, a lot of these things are probably going to do more hurt than harm. So with a lot of the newer, younger clients, I don't have them touch any of those implements almost at all. But as people get a little bit more experience, they get a little stronger, they get a little bit more curious, I will definitely let them try some of the events. I like them, some of the movements, I like them. I think that they transfer very, very well to daily life. So yes, ideally, I'd like to get everyone trying some of these things, but everyone starts at a different level. As far as when you walk in here, Joe Schmo off the street, it does look like a bit of a strongman gym. If you were to imagine blending kind of a strength conditioning Lindenwood setup with a strongman gym, that's kind of what we have here. We have your general barbells, your racks, your sleds, your turf, your cardio machines. But then on the other side of the gym, we have our Atlas stones, our kegs, our circus dumbbells, our yokes, things like that. And as far as how much of that carries into my training, I definitely think a lot. Like I said, I don't necessarily use the same implements. Like most of my clients have never touched an Atlas stone, but every single one of my clients hip hinge in some sense, right? So whether that's with a barbell, with an Atlas stone, with something, we'll have them kind of doing something that's more on that movement pattern style, something to stimulate their everyday lives, something to train the right muscle groups and patterns. So yeah.
Nice.
I definitely, with a lot of the athletes recently, the sandbags that we have, big, giant, overweighted sandbags. I've been using a lot of those in training recently, whereas I've never done that in the past. The sandbags, if you ever played with them, they're just dead weight on the floor. They're a beautiful functional movement piece. I mean, as far as like for a football player or a wrestler or jiu-jitsu guy or anything, learning how to move dead weight off the floor or carrying it or supporting it, amazing movement. So I've been using a lot more of that.
Yeah. Good. You should put that in like the expecting parents program. Never know when you got to pick up a little kid off the ground and then they get bigger and all that good stuff. Nice.
Well, we joked about that, but I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I do have some older clientele, and some of them that is their goals, right? I mean, one lady that's working with me right now, she has 2 grandkids, young grandkids, and before she started with me, she was scared to watch her grandkids by herself because they're too quick. She can't keep up with them. She can't carry them from point A to point D because she's too weak. She's gonna hurt herself. Saw the same lady with her grandkids not too long ago, and she had one over here walking all the way up the street, probably a good half a mile, running, playing games with them. And again, that's kind of what it's all about. And those movements, we can simulate that in 100 different ways. We don't necessarily have to do it with a barbell or a stone or something else.
Yeah. Nice. That's gonna be pretty rewarding. Like I would say as much as I like chasing a little bit of weight or just typical training, um, that that immediately took a second, you know, a second tier when I thought about like having a stiff back and having to get down on the ground and changing a diaper. I'm like,
Right.
I want to feel good when I go home so I can play with my kids. So like,
Yeah.
it's funny how your priorities change.
Oh,
They,
definitely.
and they change
Yeah.
fast.
Oh, yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
starting to realize that for myself a little bit too. I was talking to my wife and very openly with you now too. Um, I love competing. I love strength sports. I love strongman. I love chasing those weights, and I obviously have been up until this point. But having the kids now and being able to do those other things, it really is so much more rewarding. And I think after this next meet, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back from the heavier, crazy weights. I'll still do my movements. I'll still do my exercises, but I definitely see things for myself shifting a little bit priority wise. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
Yes. Very good. Well, we're kind of still talking about deadlifts. Let's say you have that average Joe, and they're starting to get more curious about deadlifts. Uh, any of your top tips, your most common mistakes on a motion for us?
Cool. Do you have how much time you got there, Mitch? um, well, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I guess just kind of differentiating for most people the difference between a squat and a true hip hinge. I think for most people, when they try and get their back out of the equation on the deadlift, they try and turn it into the squatting type of movement. So their knees come way forward on the deadlift, their backs round on over the bar. So I guess first tip would be put the barbell away and learn how to hip hinge correctly. Because again, if you can get that movement pattern down, it changes the movement. I thought that I knew how to deadlift when I was at Lindenwood. Move a couple of years prior. Now understanding what I know now, it's almost a different movement for me. A very easy, simple movement where when I started, you had to set your lats tight, you had to set your core tight, you got to do all these wonderful things. Um, Now it's just an easy, simple movement, and breaking it down into just a hinge. Not thinking about it in any other terms, as silly as that sounds, helped me. So again, for most people, just don't worry about the weight, don't worry about the movement itself. Just learn how to move. You know how to move, all the other movements kind of come into place, at least in my opinion. With the athletes that we train, again, simplifying it, way dumbing it down. But when we're trying to squat, we're jumping up high, right? When we're trying to deadlift, we're broad jumping, kind of setting yourself up into that body position that you already know how to be in with the jumps, and then just translating it over to the barbell. That sometimes makes sense for a lot of people. Yeah, so I try and use that a lot in my coaching cues. I have a lot of silly analogies that I use with the kids, and that sometimes seems to help. Yeah, so I guess to simplify all of that, forget about the barbell, forget about the movement, think about your body movement. Um, yeah, I don't know if that will actually help anybody, but it helps me.
Yeah, we'll take it. And so you're not rushing your clientele into strongman. You're not rushing them under a bar for anything like that. You're open to doing varied implements, maybe some fun stuff like sandbags, things like that.
For sure.
What is becoming of sort of your, not necessarily like your coaching philosophy, but what is becoming of your coaching strategy with them? To Are most of your clients in there to lose fat and get leaner? Is that the
So
typical?
most of my clients, kind of my bread and butter, are the youth athletes. I do train a lot of youth athletes, and for them, a lot of them, I don't put them under a lot of barbells. I don't use a lot of the strongman stuff minus the sandbags. We'll do a lot more, body weight stuff, a lot more plyos, a lot more jumping, a lot more goblet squats, a lot more of those style exercises. So I guess to answer your question there, when it comes to the individual private clients, it's individual. Right? I mean, some people are in there for weight loss. Some people are in there, they don't care about their weight, they just want to become stronger. Um, just before you jumped on here with you, I had a client, one of those people, does not care what he looks like, doesn't care what he weighs. He just wants to be stronger. That's what he cares about. And we train him very differently than the lady that I have that cares about weight loss only. Um, one was obviously going to be training with much higher weights, obviously, much lower reps, much bigger compound movements. The other one is probably going to be doing slightly higher rep stuff, maybe more cardiovascular based stuff. Things will shift and change, depending on the individual there. I obviously have things that I care about and that I believe in, that I love, but I try not to push it on everybody. That does bleed over, and I definitely noticed that in my coaching career. When I competed in powerlifting, I was trying to make everyone squat, bench, and deadlift, and competing in Olympic weightlifting, hey, let's try a clean because I know how to do it. But I really do try and not let that bleed in as much nowadays.
Yeah.
It probably still does, but
Yeah.
I try not to.
Yeah, I would say I don't want to call that a problem. I would say it's a fallacy, maybe, is that a lot of us do that. But on the other hand, it's good to use what you know.
For sure.
So it's better to be an acting or practicing Olympic weightlifter and to teach cleans than to just hear about it on the internet and to start teaching cleans. But yeah,
Totally.
it definitely takes some time, and it's always tempting because you and I were we were talking earlier about training logs and how you go through and you see maybe what you were doing a decade ago. And there's a chance that a decade ago, whatever you were doing, your clients were probably maybe doing a little bit of something like that.
Sure.
Because it's top of mind. So if it's on the top of your mind, but it might be the same principle of what you're doing today, just a different method.
Right.
And so if you know what your principles are, yeah, you might mess with your methods, sandbag versus kettlebell versus this, that, and the other. But I think the most important thing is you're using things that you know, and that your athletes or your clients are getting quality training. Sure. And sometimes they're kind of getting a taste of what you're doing. And
for sure. And like it bleeds over. But it's like you say, if you have some set of principles that you can stand by that guide you, I think that's extremely important as a trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, we try things every year. We try different things. If you can justify it, cool. But if you can have a guiding principle that guide you in a certain way, way better. Right. So.
You got youth athletes. So can you tell us more about that? Like, what age are these individuals in groups? Do they have a sport specialization yet?
Yeah, so general group. I've had a couple of individual athletes, but I do really try and push the younger athletes into the groups. Again, my humble opinion, but I think for younger youth athletes, they don't really need any specific individual specialized thing. They just need, again, learn how to move and become generally athletic. Again, there are people that need individualized attention, but for the most part, so I try and get them into the groups, and like I said, they're pretty general. I'll write up the workouts, and throughout the workouts, we'll maybe change one or two movements here and there. Like some of the kids that have been with me for 3-4 years, I'll put them under a front squat. Some of the newer kids, I'll have them goblet squat. But yeah, so what we'll try and do is I see them twice a week, sometimes only once a week. So a little bit of an issue there as far as training stimulus. So what we'll try and do is try and go through a full body workout every time I see them. And then what that full body workout will look like is a push, pull, hinge, squat, carry kind of setup. Day one, day two will be a little bit more upper, a little bit more lower body emphasized, but for the most part, that full body kind of set up for them. And then we'll run that through twice a week, like I said. And then we'll try and go through certain phases. Again, most of the kids are not very consistent, so it's kind of hard to do that. But we try and go through a little bit of a hypertrophy phase, a little bit of a GPP phase, and a little bit of a power phase. When I say power phase, it's truly not a power phase. It's just getting them to move a little bit quicker and try and produce a little bit more force. But yeah, that's what we do with our little young athlete groups.
What's your average age on that?
So average age is probably 12 to 14.
Yeah.
Generally don't like kids younger than 12, not because they're not capable, but just because they don't really listen too well. They have fun, and sometimes it's a bit of a distraction. And then 14, 15 is usually the peak age there, and then they're off to other bigger sports, and then some of them come back for individuals. Some obviously move on to other things.
Yeah, those younger ages are tricky. It's not so easy to give them quality training when they don't know what they're training for and they don't want to be there. And mom and dad know that fitness is important, but sometimes those kids don't get it. And if you've got 6 kids that don't get it, it gets tough real fast. So I don't know if you remember the company Exos.
Yes, sir.
So Exos used to have like this. Maybe they brought it back. I haven't really looked into it in years, but years ago that was part of their powerhouse that was Exos and the youth training. And then I think they ran into similar issues like you're just discussing, and I think they made like 12 their minimal age. So again, that's old information. If it changed, I'm not sure. But I've spent time with those youth groups as well, and it's tough. I've kind of found with my own kids, and I've got some neighbor kids that kind of tag along. About 10 minutes of exercise is kind of what they're interested in, and
Right,
after
right.
and after that, they want to go do the next thing. But
Then it's fun
yeah,
and games after that.
yeah, it can be. Shout out to PE teachers at elementary schools everywhere.
100%.
Yeah,
But now, again, talking about that, we realize that and try and build that into the programs too. We do want them to work. We do try and get a good stimulating training session, but we try and incorporate a lot of games. We try and after every session, every day, to do some kind of little silly game. We'll play for $1 sometimes. Sometimes we'll play for a little cardio thing. So we'll try and keep them engaged like that we don't really do with adults as much. But yeah,
yeah, nice. Yeah,
kids are fun
that's
though. Super fun.
yeah. That seems to be the common narrative for youth is just fun. Fun. Well, I guess safety is your most important thing, but fun is the number one thing. And um, I think lifting weights is fun, but it's
Yeah,
only
not all of us think like that, right?
it's on maybe they haven't watched enough Rocky movies and
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger movies to really be excited about it at age 10, like some of us.
very good.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, you were kind of talking about that. That kind of led on. I was just kind of thinking about it, but some of the other questions you sent me was the one thing to focus on to be well, and that's something I don't think anyone should watch. Rocky movies and Arnold movies to be well. But I was thinking about that quite a lot, and to be well, we don't just want to survive; we want to thrive, right? And part of that is kind of pushing and challenging yourself or driving towards something. And just like we learned from the Rocky movies back in the day, I feel like something that the kids are kind of lacking nowadays, and people in general are kind of lacking nowadays. We don't generally push ourselves. We don't generally challenge ourselves. Life is pretty easy, for the most part, for most of us. Yes, we have stresses. Yes, we have things like that, but life is easy. Most of us have a good meal. Most of us have a roof over our heads. And I think that's one thing we could all do better to be well is challenge ourselves more. Put yourself in a position to be uncomfortable more, and I feel like you might appreciate the good stuff even more. Sounds a little counterintuitive, but something I fully believe in and try and push with everyone that comes to my door here. Um, if we can maybe take a little bit of a negative turn on this, but depression hate rates are at an all-time high. People are in general are just stressed. They're not happy. There's things going on, and I'm sure you would agree. But this place here, the gym is a magical place. The barbell is a magical place. And if all those people just touch the barbell, I feel like all their lives would be so much happier because it teaches you how to challenge yourself. It teaches you how to push yourself. It teaches you how to maybe desensitize yourself a little bit to all the other bad stuff out there.
yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely something I want to talk about and get
Yeah.
across there.
Yeah. I mean, you can get as scientific as you want with that, like big sexy words like psychoneuroimmunology, like those stressors will make you sick, whether you get sniffles or depression. And the easy way to research has shown is just to go get your heart rate up and to do challenging things. And then
Right,
you have and there's like just sort of like the fun, like culture of voluntary hardship.
right, right.
Like how beneficial are ice baths? Yeah, there's some science behind that.
Yeah.
But if you
It's
go and do
magic.
something if you go and do something that sucks that bad to start your day, you're probably ready to like sit through meetings and have like tough conversations with people and
Right.
not have a meltdown.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe something you can go and experience with me, but something I got to experience not too long ago. Are you familiar with Creve Core Park?
Very. Yeah.
Cool. So they have these 4-person bicycles that you can hire.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So me and my wife thought, great idea. Let's take the kids out. Let's get this giant 4-person bicycle thing, and we'll go around the lake. Our kids are not big enough to cycle, so mom and dad were doing all the cycling.
Yeah.
And on the straights, we were like, man, this is hard. This thing's heavy. We're not going to make it around the lake. This is too tough. We get to our first uphill, and both my wife look at ourselves. We look at each other, and we commit. We're like, okay, we're gonna hustle it up this hill, and when we get to the top, we can stop. We can take it easy. Decent incline. We're going. The legs are burning. The quads are absolutely screaming at us. We get to the top, flattens out, and we didn't need to stop. We thought that flat was so hard that we need to stop. We tackled something that was actually tough, pushed through it, got to the next flat, and we're like, oh, okay, we can actually do this. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's a beautiful analogy for life as a whole. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the people that I know that are generally happy, that are all upbeat, that have a good smile on their face every day, they do hard shit all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
And the people that, on the other side of the coin, the people that are having a harder time, they're generally not doing those harder things. So yeah, I definitely think, at least for myself, this place is magical and could change the world if we allow people to experience that side of things.
Yeah.
You've heard that quote, the barbell. I think it was by Henry Rollins. But yeah, it was the barbell is the great equalizer. It's always the same, no unequal treatment, regardless of race, gender, or beliefs. Standing your way, making you earn each rep. The infinite educator, the bar will teach you more than just about anything else or any other endeavor. A little bit more to that quote there, but that's kind of one that I keep hearing, something that I believe in, like I said. So,
yeah. Yeah. And shout out to Henry Rollins for being a jacked rock star. So,
yeah, seriously. 200 pounds, always 200 pounds.
Right? Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I'm going to have to, I'm going to put that up. I'll put that in the show notes as well, but that's great. You talk about that biking. I've actually been to Creve Coeur, and I've loaded both my kids on the front of that bike and rode it around a little bit. I didn't do a whole lap, but we went out and back for a little while. That's a good time. But
you experienced the burn then too.
I felt the burn, yeah. But another thing that I've got that's just a tangent. There's these I call it the chariot. It's a bike stroller that you attach to the back of a regular bike, and you can bike your kids around. And we've had one of those for like the last year, and it's one of the most fun things I do with my kids. It's like they just get in there and they just cruise like they're like a couple of like socialites out on the town, and the wind is in their hair, and they really do love it quite a bit. So if you're looking for if you're a parent and you're looking for an easy way to get a workout in, get one of those bike strollers and just take bike rides with your kids. Yeah. But you talk, and the story you said about you and your wife, like having to push and things like that, like you're setting an example for your kids. I'm sure they see daddy as like a big, strong guy and he's doing hard stuff all the time, but like to like see like a little bit of strain and things like that, they like learn that it's okay. And you think about there's like there's some story about a gambler who dies and goes to heaven, and every day he goes to the casino and he wins and he's doing all this other stuff, and then it turns out that he never loses and that he's not in heaven, he's in hell. Is because it's going to be the same result just over and over again, and nothing he does matters. And so I kind of like think that something you said just kind of made me think about that. Is that things are better when you suffer a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, like we went over to a neighbor's, like they had like a donut truck over at their house the other morning. Neighbor, well, my sister-in-law, she's like a mile away, and so I did the bike thing over there, and then like I had so much fun riding riding my kids over there. And then when I was there, some other kids wanted to go for rides, so I was like biking around extra, and like I got to think I had more fun than the parents that were just standing around and just chit chatting, and everybody can relax and have a little bit of junk food, like whatever. But I got to think that I had more fun than they did.
I definitely agree.
So
yeah, so we go to Rock and Jump quite often with our kids. And are you familiar with Rock and Jump?
Rock and Jump.
Rock in, little N, Rock and Jump.
I don't know that one.
So it's a trampoline park here in the area, and they trampoline slides, jumps, and all those type of things. And favorite thing in the world to go there, because again, you can kind of look around. Most of the kids are all doing their things, and 99% of the adults are sitting on their phones, not looking too happy about life. But you see the ones that are up and jumping with their kids. They're all smiling. They're all happy. They're all having a good time. They're using their body. Again, something you can all do a little bit more of.
Right. Like, bad news, kids. This is my childhood too. All right. So like,
get to experience that a little bit now.
Yeah. So, you don't waste opportunities to get on trampolines if you're not severely injured.
No, nowadays you can't waste that anyway. You got to use it. You got to use it.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice. Awesome. So I love that approach. You're talking about the winning wellness. You're talking about the holistic effect. The mental, our mental health is improved by doing hard stuff. Our physical, obviously the physical benefits of doing hard things as well.
Right.
When you have, okay, so you've got sort of that preteen, early teenagers crowd going. Are there any principles that you're not just telling them to like goblet squat and do push-ups? Is there anything that you're educating them on? What do you consider like maybe like the big pillars of things that these young people need to know?
So with the young kids, and again, trying to simplify things down and dumb things down, I draw a little athletic pyramid for them every time they come in. The first time they come in, and I explain to them how the base of this pyramid. You want to be this athlete. You want to be this amazing athlete. You want to be powerful. You want to be strong. You want to have muscle. But the very, very base of this pyramid is your move patterns. It's how you're moving. It's how you're controlling your body. If you can't do that, you can't do any of these big things. And I really try and hammer that home to them quite a lot. Going back to what I said about the things that I did wrong when I was younger, I'm just truly trying to get these kids just to learn how to move their bodies. When we start with squat pattern movements, we'll usually go through some type of body weight thing. And a lot of the newer kids, when they come in, they'll drop their butts right to the ground. Their heels will come up off the floor. Hips will tuck on under them. For somebody like that, why would I ever put a bar in your hands? You don't know how to move yet. If I can teach you how to move just a little bit better, you'll display your power and your strength a hell of a lot better too. And that's kind of something that I try and get across to them. Try and do a little bit of education on that when they come in, try and explain, the recovery side of things. But like you said, it is very, very difficult with the younger kids because I do see myself every time I sit up there with my whiteboard and my marker and I turn around and they're not really looking at me. They're not really listening. So I do try it, but that's a little bit of a tougher thing recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Movement quality. And I've dabbled in the youth sector, but I understand that if you can get them moving well, the earlier you can get them moving well, the easier it is to stay in a quality movement pattern versus taking like some crusty guy in his mid-30s and trying to fix his stuff.
Right.
If somebody gets their hands on that same guy 20 years earlier, then they can set the patterns and basically make like a lifelong change. So when you talk about making an impact, those younger athletes, you have a bigger impact like lifelong. They may not appreciate it. They might not have any clue that Coach Johan taught them how to move properly. They may never know. They may not realize it for another 15 years.
Right.
But
but that's the thing. Yeah, that's again the bread and butter of why we started this gym and what I do. I mean, that's where I think that I can make the biggest impact, and that's what we do is with these younger athletes. When we got to Lindenwood, when I got to experience my college sports, you could 110% tell straight away the people that had prior experience versus people that did not. That was my first little eye-opening. Hey, training might be important. Training might help. Since having the gym here, we've gotten to go through an entire from freshman all the way. Hey, you're going to college now. When we first started the gym, we did a lot of volunteer work for Fort Zumwalt West basketball, their program. Got them into the gym. They kind of started the gym. Some of the OG athletes we had in here, none of them knew how to work around a barbell when we first met them. And now, 5 years later, a lot of them are college coming back for the summer for the first time. And they're all telling me like, hey, we're able to do this in the weight room. Hey, coach said my squat looked good. And hey, this felt good. I'm not injuring myself. So we're just starting to see a little bit of the proof of the pudding come through now. And that's definitely cool to see. Like you said, if we can teach these kids how to move way back then in their freshman years, by the time they get to their college years, they're in such a better spot than anyone else around them. Not injured, know how to move, stronger, perform better, win-win all around.
Yeah, my wife's a kindergarten teacher, so we often like just talk about, that you are their first teacher. They'll be for the rest of their lives, like they'll kind of remember you and like you have such a big impact on them. Like maybe not so much like teaching them like classic literature or calculus, but you're helping fuel like a passion or a love for learning, or at least the ability to bear being at school. And so I mean, and then to be like their first strength coach, it's a pretty awesome thing. Like I had my first strength coach in high school, and he's the first guy I interviewed when I started doing this podcast. I reached out to him, and he didn't ask me questions. He's like, just tell me what you need. I'll be there. Like,
that's really awesome.
So, Yeah, so Kevin Kinney is one of my first episodes there, maybe episode 3. But yeah, to be impacting them at that young age is just it's a big deal.
Right,
Yeah.
huge, really huge.
Yeah.
Big responsibility too. I started when I was 14, 15. I was pretty into rugby. Obviously swam, wrestled when I was younger. I had a motorcycle accident. I broke my femur, titanium rod in my left leg, no PCL, no meniscus in my left knee. And when I first, got out of surgery and everything like that, I started working with the trainer, and he had me in a pool, doing all kinds of things. And I credit that man to what I've done later in my life. If it wasn't for that guy, I probably wouldn't have stepped foot in the gym. I wouldn't have gained the passion back then. That guy's what started all of this. So again, my first strength coach is probably the reason I'm here today too.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Sweet. You got a little titanium in you?
Yeah, left leg.
Yeah.
From the hip all the way to the knee. It's why I can deadlift so much. It keeps me stable.
Yeah. You cheating son of a gun. You're definitely getting disqualified now.
No,
yeah.
I gotta
nice.
delete that part out so no one knows, right?
Yeah, I got a little titanium in the head and the arm over here.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I got some hardware. Yeah.
That was from a rock falling accident or a rock climbing accident, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I remember that.
But I think maybe it's my own personal experience, but it's also just talking to people. I think a little, maybe it's near death, maybe it's just loss of wellness. I think that is such like a fortifying experience, especially if you get into the coaching field, is that you know how, like, you're just grateful. You're like, man, this is way better than being bedridden or being, crippled or whatever could have happened. It's like you think, like, you maybe feel sorry for yourself sometimes, like, I don't want to really pick up that heavy weight. But like younger me would have like been so excited to have the chance. And then I think when we coach people, we don't always like tie it to our own story, but like I think it just comes out of us as coaches, is that like, hey, this health stuff is awesome. You should come do something really hard because you can. Like, like I can give you science and we can tie it to your goals, but basically you're healthy enough to do it, so just come do it.
Right, just put in some effort and do it.
Yeah.
And that's something that I love about my training, and kind of something that's driven me a long time. Is I love that push. I love that push more than anything else in the world, because I like driving against myself. It's kind of like that, like we talked about with that barbell quote. Like I like knowing where I'm at, and that barbell keeps me honest. If I put in that hard work, I put in that effort, and I'm done getting a lot of myself. That's like equalizer, like we call it.
How about some recovery? Because you could tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I often am. But do you ever go to deadlift and you just don't have it that day? So what do you do to basically, and I think, would you say that's like a nervous system thing, or what?
I think so, at least in my experience, in my opinion so far. I definitely think so. So I guess a couple of different parts to that. If everything happened in a vacuum and we had no external stresses, your programming should take care of a lot of that. There should be a little bit of regulation or regulation in your training to where you're not overshooting on a prior week, so that you're capable of hitting what you hit the week in question. But a lot of people have, relationship stress, work stress, financial stress, and that all kind of bleeds into it too. And I feel like that's a little bit harder to kind of figure out. When those days happen, when those deadlifts just don't come off the floor, it's usually because of some other life stress that I have going on. And I've kind of seen that. Again, a little bit of experience on my part, but I've deadlifted probably every week since I can remember, deadlifting. So I know what it feels like. I know what my body feels like. By the time I'm warming up on that barbell, I have a pretty good feeling and understanding of what I'm capable of doing that day. And some days I pick up that bar and it feels heavy in my hands, and I gotta know why. I gotta, search for that reason. And usually it's something nervous system related. I didn't sleep. My daughter woke me up the night before. I'm stressed because of finances, because of X, Y, and Z. So I definitely think the nervous system comes into it a lot, and all the external stresses come into it a lot.
I think I don't know if any lift can surprise you with how off you are that day more than deadlifts. Seems like the other lifts you can just grind through and like make it happen, or you just know, oh, that was a crummy lift, or I need to take a little bit of weight off. And then sometimes that deadlift, It just doesn't even budge.
It just doesn't move at all. It sucks. It sucks, but also a cool thing sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. So what are you doing? You are a strength coach and a father. What are you doing with your own children to make them into superhumans? What are some things that you're doing besides taking them to the trampoline park?
Right.
What are you doing with them? Anything, nutrition, education, sleep, maybe like a little bit of training already. What are you doing with them to just kind of like give them that advantage?
So just like yourself, I'm pretty lucky. My wife was a teacher as well. She was a fourth grade teacher. When our kids were born, she made the decision to stay at home, which was pretty good for us. So she teaches them a lot. She has classroom hours for them sometimes throughout the week. So she'll throw on her teacher glasses and she'll go through her lessons. My son now, I don't know if this is really good or bad. I'm biased because I'm his dad, but I think my son's a genius. He's 4 years old now. He can quite literally read. The questions that he asks me sometimes, he's got this amazing mind. I think that's all due to Brianna on that side of things. She takes care of the education. I'm the dumb meathead. And here, I try and bring them up here with me as much as possible, pretty much every day. Usually in the middle of the days, I don't have clients. So when I'm working out, I'll try and bring them up here and we'll do obstacle courses. So I have a bunch of plyo boxes and some slam pads. So I'll do, a box jump onto a red pad for them with a little bit of a balance walk over the next plyo box with a little bit of a death drop onto a little bit of a box there with a sprint down the turf and back. So I'll have them doing something like that with me pretty much every day they're in here. And then outside of that, we just try and lead a good role model of a healthy life. Like we try and go out to the parks very often. We try and fish often. We try and bike ride with them as much as we can. And then on the eating side of things, I mean, I'm still a very competitive athlete, so I try and eat well. We try and eat good meals, so we cook at home with them all the time. We try and get them involved with the meals. Hendrik was mixing up eggs and making eggs for us the other morning, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have a little garden outside my house, and another thing we're trying to do with the food, our kids helped, seed everything. They helped water everything every day. They helped harvest. So now, kind of a cool thing when we're getting ready for our dinners, Hendrik will go down in the garden and he'll get us some green beans, and he'll bring that back. And kind of getting that connection with where food comes from has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because just like with most kids, hey, I don't want to eat that. I want to eat a cookie today. Oh, but this is good for you, X, Y, Z. You helped build that. This is important for you. You took time into it. That's been pretty huge on the food side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, really just trying to be good role models. We suck at it sometimes, but just trying to be good role models.
Yeah. Awesome. It's surprising how young kids can make decent eggs.
Right. That makes really damn good eggs.
Like sometimes you leave the room and they're standing on the chair to do it, and you're like, that's definitely gonna be a mess when I come back, and they get it figured out. So it's a nice surprise. It's pretty cool when they started doing that and making their own little sandwiches and stuff like that. But that's cool.
One moment, and not meaning to cut you off there, but my son, we enrolled him in something called Kickaroos. It's an indoor soccer program for the young kids.
Yes. Yeah.
And at his age, they didn't really do any soccer skills or anything yet. It was kind of like running around cones, jumping over pool noodles. First ever session, there was probably about 10 kids in this group. My son is the second one from the end, third one from the end in this little lined up group of kids. They had 5 pool noodles set up on the floor, and their job was to jump from one pool noodle over the other one. Whole line of people go through. They jump. My kid, third from last, gets there, looks down at the pool noodle, and he picks it up and he starts doing snatches with the pool noodle. Then him and the other 2 kids behind him start doing snatches of pool noodles. The greatest little dad moment ever.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
No, we try and keep them active.
Yeah, awesome. With the homeschooling, is that going to end when they're like kindergarten age, or?
Not true homeschooling. They kind of do this as a fun thing throughout their days and weeks. Hendrik, my son, actually already goes to school already 3 days a week.
Oh, I see.
Just for kindergarten, the early childhood education center. He's there. My daughter will be starting that later on this year.
Which one?
Here in O'Fallon, not the one in St. Charles.
Okay. So, just checking.
Yep. Why you the one in St. Charles?
Well, we're further out in like Chesterfield. So
okay.
Yeah. But we sent our daughter through it prior to kindergarten, and then our boy is in it now. But yeah, we're pretty happy with it. And then my wife teaches in the school district, so yeah, we enjoy it. We like it. What's going on over at Atlas Training Academy? Where do you see the future of the facility, the future of your career?
So future of the facility, we got a couple of really exciting things lined up. Like I said, we're about 5 years in now. We've got a good couple of systems in place that we've had to learn along the way, and that's all finally done and concreted, so we know what we're doing. So we're trying to expand a little bit more. We're trying to bring more trainers on under us in the building, and then we have a physical therapist and then a chiropractor that will want to kind of join forces with us too. We'll be doing a little bit of office space in the back. We'll be building on that the rest of the year and then bringing them on board. And then hopefully turning this place into a one-stop little athlete shop where we can get you strong, get you performing better, get you working better at your sports, but also helping you on the recovery side. Obviously, having those people, kind of with us, watching our athletes, training our athletes with us, I feel like will be huge. It will be, a little bit of an extra service we can offer. I'll keep our athletes safer, give them an extra recovery outlet if they need it. So yeah, that's a couple of the bigger things happening over here the next probably year or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, just trying to keep on making things as efficient as we can, refine things as much as we can. We're always getting new equipment in and moving around space and trying to set up things in a different way. So always trying to stay on top of things as much as we can.
Is there anything we have not talked about that you want to bring up or share or discuss?
Mitch, truly, I could sit here and talk to you all day. Yeah. But I just wanted to get across, something that I believe in is just what I said about the barbell, as silly as it sounds. I wish and I pray that I could get a barbell in every person's hands in the whole world. We can all just, exercise, work a little bit, challenge ourselves. I really think we'll all be a little bit better off. As long as I can get that across, I'm a happy man.
I love it. That's a great message. How can people find you, contact you, reach out, anything like that?
So our website would probably be the best place to see what we have going on. That's atlastrainingacademy.com. Otherwise, the social medias that I'm most active on is probably Instagram. We do have a Facebook page, but definitely more active on the Instagram side of things. Yeah.
Go on Instagram if you want to see him pulling some pretty awesome deadlifts.
Yeah. Hopefully in 2 weeks' time we do even better. We're doing better.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's hang out for a minute, but yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And
thank you. It's good seeing you and talking to you for sure.
Yeah, likewise. You're the man. Thank you so much for listening to our Winning Wellness podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions for podcast guests or topics, you can submit those through YouTube comments. You can message me on Instagram. My handle is Mitch Schwartzman, or you can email me at coachmitchschwartzman@gmail.com.